should there be any large settlements there, every large city is a capital of a state/territory, has a significant port, a good water supply in the form of a river. I mean, that's a good point. Like, there doesn't need to be big cities here. It is just kind of fun when you see this question posed, and I guess, like, seeing the answers as to why there's not, right? Like, you already have Adelaide, and that serves this kind of whole greater region as a bigger city. We also have another perspective here. The only reason the third area, as you describe, it doesn't have a big city plus million plus population around it is because Australia had settled on the 7 colonies and left it at that. So that area being split between Victoria and South Australia didn't need to develop a city around the port at Portland, as they had already had Melbourne and Adelaide going. If Australia was divided up further into smaller colonies, no doubt this area would be more populated with a capital based here. And see, that's kind of something to take into consideration as well, is how things naturally evolved a long time ago. Sometimes that's just the way the cookie crumbles, and certain areas remain kind of more empty because there was never a need for a big settlement there. So let's pose another question. Why don't more people live in this part of Australia, especially since the weather's more tropical there? So that's what I've learned as well, is when we're talking about North Australia, way up here, way different than way down here, especially if we're talking about like Victoria, Tasmania, right? This is like hot all year round. You don't really get 4 seasons. You just get kind of hot and dry, or hot and wet, or maybe hot and really wet. I'm not really sure. But yeah, you could say it's very tropical. I also think that there's a lot going on up here when it comes to the dangerous stuff, right? Saltwater crocs, probably a bunch of crazy stuff in the waters. All right, moving on to something I can admit I've never seen before. I've seen quite a few ways to relieve yourself in the restroom, but this is one I have not. I visited your beautiful country and had a wonderful time, but I didn't know how the F to piss on this thing. Apologies if I gave anyone pissy feet. Wow, this is kind of interesting. Is this water like flowing down, by the way? I wonder if we do have these somewhere. I've never encountered one of these. What would be like the name for this? Like a pee fountain or something? I'm going to assume you just, where do you stand? I feel like standing on here would be weird, right? Do you just pee onto this wall of water and it washes it down? What the hell am I looking at? I was in Australia last month. I didn't realize you were supposed to stand on the grate and piss. I stood back on the tile and another fellow came in and stood on the grate. Oh no, you are supposed to stand on that. No way. See, I would have felt weird just stepping on that. Okay. I said, I meant no disrespect, sir. I didn't realize you were supposed to stand on the grate. And he said, that's okay, mate. I'm just jealous of the blokes who can't stand back there. What a wonderful bunch of people. That is awesome. That sounds like a meeting an Australian would go. What a legend. You lay down and poke your penis through the grate. I'm a cleaner and can 100% agree that it doesn't matter where you piss, because everyone just pisses on the floor anyway. All right, now I know you don't have to hear this from me, especially if you're watching from Australia, where it is hot, it is summer, and the sun is always hitting hard in Australia, right? But just a reminder, as always, sensitive viewers, look away. We're going to be looking at sunburn. This is a reminder to use sunscreen. The sun ain't messing around this year. I feel horrible for this guy. I've had the misfortune of getting some wicked burns, maybe like 2 or 3 times in my life. And I've had it like all up here, all kind of on my shoulders and upper arms, only a couple times. And it was, I mean, I really can't think of anything worse. I really can't. It is hell. It is excruciating. Every movement hurts it. You're just baking hot all the time. And anything you use to treat it usually hurts as well. It's miserable. So, yeah, don't get burnt. It ain't fun. But, yeah, there's a reminder. Holy smokes, I feel horrible for this guy. Now, of course, I'm into learning about different foods and different cultures, different countries' foods. I've become very fond of a lot of different Australian famous foods. This might be a little too Australian for me, though. Take a look. The ultimate fairy snag. Yeah, I'm going to pass on that one. All right, the future is here in Australia. Look at this. So you got your snag and you put it in the sauce bot. You hit red for tomato and what looks to be green for mustard. That is just hilarious and ridiculous. But someone made it, so props. But what gets me is the Aussie sense of humor again in the comments. That's cool, but can we put a big googly eyes on it and a speaker that moans as the sauce comes out? I think we've got a winner. All right, now as I said earlier, moving on to big things. Starting out with Uluru, that's a big rock. Take a look at this epic picture of Uluru in the rain. Such a cool pic, man. There's something about, dry areas at deserts when all of a sudden they do get a rare rain. They get, clouds and fog. What a cool and kind of eerie look, right? But beautiful at the same time. You see the water kind of, temporarily staining the rock and dripping down, and you see a lot of colors begin to flourish in the desert. It's really, really cool. You see that contrast of the greenery and, of course, the red rocks. Y'all know how much I love deserts and red rocks, and this is like the mecca for that. Very cool view of it, and something I really haven't seen before. It's not usually the type of video or picture of Uluru you would see, but I quite like it. Someone took a picture of these big offshore wind farms in Australia. Now, I couldn't help but notice, first of all, these things are huge. If you see these things, I'm calling them things, guys. I don't know the terminology for this stuff, all right? You got to go easy on me. But this thing here, right, looks pretty small compared to these. So you can tell that these are big. What's funny is they don't really look like the typical wind turbines you'd see. I see these all around the U.S. They're usually plain white. These got this kind of yellow or golden bit. And once I say this, you won't be able to unsee it. These literally look like big cigarettes. It's a cigarette farm out in the water. All right, next we're going to take a look at a couple different caves in Australia. They're both really big and quite different. These are called the Genolin caves in Australia. The ceiling is so high in real life, and I'll show you. Take a look at that. It is insane, right? To see the vegetation growth, to see how high that ceiling is. And remember, pictures don't do something like this justice at all. But even in the picture, you can see the slight shadow here. You can see kind of the grandeur of this thing. Has anyone been here? Looks like a wild place. Then we have this cave that I got to find out the name of in a second. It looks absolutely insane. You can see this boat down here for reference. Absolutely massive and spectacular. People in the comments literally thought, hey, or were saying, hey, I'm Australian. I've never seen this. Is this AI? Is this made up? No, this is real. That's how crazy it looks. People didn't even believe it. So let's see. Yeah, I've never heard of this. It's on Cleft Island. Cleft Island, also known as Skull Rock, is a small, rugged granite island in the Answer group of islands to the southwest of Wilson's Promontory, Victoria, Australia. And as you can see, it's way down here, this tiny island off the mainland here. Crazy. The surrounding waters mean high water mark are within Wilson's Promontory Marine National Park. Wilson's Promontory Island's important bird area, identified as such by BirdLife International because of its importance for breeding seabirds. It is partially hollowed out by ancient waves, creating a cave 130 meters, or 430 feet, wide and 60 meters tall. Only 9 people have ventured into the cavern, finding old cannonballs left by passing ships practicing their aim. What the heck? Adventurers had to land on top of the rock by a helicopter. Then they shimmied down ropes to gain entrance to the cave. How freaky would that be? right? To me, that's scary. Like going to a cave that basically no one's been to.